The original plan for this year's crop was to plant a field such as this into corn. When we saw that the snowpack in the mountains was not going to be adequate to support the river on a direct flow basis for the season, and that the South Platte River itself was not going to allow us the amount of water that we needed for fields like this, we realized that we had to change our cropping operation. And you can see grass fields here that are basically bare, where no crop was developed this year because there was no water for them. And we came into fields like this that the original plan was to plant corn in. We actually had to waylay from that plan and ended up prevented planting, which was an insurance term for a field that has basically been fallowed. And we planted this cover crop, this sorghum cover crop, just to simply keep the erosion from developing. As you can see, by the size, by the height, by the color, the lack of growth, it would not have made a forage crop. There's not enough stand here, there's not enough volume to work with. Such as this 20-acre in corn would have yielded probably around 600 tons of silage, which would have fed approximately 300 head of steers for the feeding duration. This well has been shut down since 2006, when the court-ordered decree was retained, and even though we normally irrigated a field like this with the well, we since then have only been able to irrigate with the rainfall that we've received, as well as the surface rights from our 1866 decree. That sounds like an old decree, but obviously there are ditches older than that that have called us out. This field was designed for silage. It was actually cut for silage. But in a field that would normally yield 30 ton to the acre, we ended up with about a 50% yield when it was all over. This year we found that we had to prioritize water to keep fields such as this onion crop alive and growing, and we prioritized the water, took it away from the corn crop, and still only ended up with approximately a 60% yield because of the heat and the drought.
The sprinkler hasn't run since June 10th. Ditch ran out of water at that time. The sprinkler covers 80 acres that would have brought in revenue of around $126,000. Underneath my feet today is 10.5 million acre feet of water that has been inaccessible since 2005. I think it's important that the state address the issue of water that leaves the state, and that we do the best that we can to beneficially use each and every drop that exists in the state, whether it be surface or ground. These are cornstalk bales or corn bales that came off of this pivot, 132 acre pivot. 200 ton off of 132 acres brought us $20,000. That $20,000 replaced the over $130,000 that we would have derived had we been able to take the silage to harvest, the corn to harvest. You know, because the feedlot needed the forage, it would have been cheaper for us to have left it in the field, dissed it under and started over. But we took the extra steps to try and provide them with what they needed, which was some kind of forage. Production ag is not the only industry that hurts because of the restrictions on the wells. The feedlot behind me is an 80,000 head lot that only has 40,000 head of cattle in it right now, because that's all that the augmentation credits that they have can support. The reason for high grain prices has nothing to do with ethanol, has everything to do with drought. And I think it's important that we keep the focus on that fact and do what we can to mitigate the damage that can be done by a second year of a drought in Colorado.
On a daily basis, we grind about 45,000 bushels of corn into 135,000 gallons of ethanol and 1,100 tons of distillers grains feed. Here in Colorado, the ethanol industry is a great success story. There's three large plants in the state, including Front Range Energy here in Windsor. We take Colorado grown corn, we make Colorado ethanol, and we make a distillers grain feed for the Colorado livestock feeders. 100% of our ethanol goes to the Denver markets, 100% of our feed goes to the local feed markets in Colorado. The three large producers of ethanol in the state of Colorado supply over 170 million gallons of ethanol to the Denver and regional markets in Colorado each year, and we also feed over 700,000 head of cattle in the state. This year's drought effect is widespread, including the ethanol industry. The Ethanol production has slowed down 15% nationwide. Front Range Energy here in Windsor, Colorado, for the first time ever in our 6-year history, we idled the plant at the beginning of August due to high corn prices. About the middle of August, Front Range Energy started back up our production process due to 2 factors. One was the ethanol demand in Denver, our consumers wanting our product coming from a local source. The second was our livestock feed customers were also demanding that, or asking that we start back up for the feed source. Front Range Energy, like other ethanol producers, are looking at next generation biofuel production. These next generations are going to come through existing infrastructure like the infrastructure we have for grain-based ethanol here at Front Range. We are actively talking to several technologies in the state of Colorado using different biomass, wood-based products, beetle kill in the state to convert into biofuels. The fact of the matter is the drought has caused high corn prices, not ethanol production. Without ethanol production, corn acres would be a lot lower than they are today. We planted 20% more corn this year than we did 10 years ago. Without that demand of corn for ethanol, acres would be substantially less, and the fact is we'd have similar high corn prices today regardless.